We'd like to welcome everyone to the Sister Cypher here on Sirius Mindz Rntv. Peace to everyone that's in the chat room. I have with me today Alex Little and Cat Boogie from the Bronx. And I'm
Blessings.
Juan. So I want to ask everyone to please hit the like button, subscribe, and share. If you want to donate to the platform, you can hit up Professor Griff on PayPal, our Super Chat, our Cash App. We want to thank Professor Griff for giving us an opportunity to come on every Tuesday and Thursday night to talk about some serious topics. So, ladies, peace. You want to say hello to the chat room?
Yes,
Peace,
blessing as
everybody.
always.
Peace.
Carrie?
Yes, I said blessing as always. Blessings.
Oh, okay,
More
cool.
blessings.
Alrighty, so fam, what we're going to talk about tonight, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the GQ issue that Pharrell Williams was on recently. And so there's a lot of talk about this whole evolving masculinity and it being spiritual warfare. And so for those of you who don't know about this issue, basically he's on the cover with a quilted yellow dress on with blonde hair, mind you. And so he's basically causing a ripple effect in the hip hop community. And there's a lot of talk about this whole idea of having men to dress as women and calling it new masculinity, which I find bananas because one, I don't want my man dressing in a dress or women clothing for that part. I mean, I don't get it. I don't know why they chose him in particular, but you know, I was reading this article and one of the first things that GQ did was basically called him an agent of change and said basically his whole career he's very thought-provoking. He, you know, basically he's a trendsetter and, you know, he basically does all of these things and they're now coining him as the mascot of this whole term of evolving masculinity. And so I want to dive into this because again, I feel like our communities are being attacked and there's definitely some propaganda and a gay agenda being pushed on everyone. And I don't want to step on anyone's toes. Look, at the end of the day, every tub has to stand on its own bottom. I don't care that you're gay. To be honest with you, I really don't care. But when you're trying to say that it's okay for men to wear dresses and they're pretty much straight, if you will, I see that as propaganda. I see that as a hidden agenda. So I want to dive into this, and we're going to talk about, you know, some key factors that I found with this article. And I want to get your take on it, ladies. Before we dive in, I just want to get your take on seeing him for the first time in a dress on a cover of GQ.
I mean, well, blessing everyone again. I just wanted to say when I first seen it, I was like, I don't know what's going on here. You have a black man. It's bad enough that we have to struggle just to present ourselves and state what we stand for and how we want to be identified as. So now you're going towards being gender neutral. But once we hit gender neutral, then our belief, what we stand for, what we fight for, it becomes obsolete. So now you're going to have women issue combined with men issue. Those are two different genders, two different sex. You can't combine them both. What he feels as a man, I will never understand. And what I feel as a woman, he will never understand. So it's cute to dress up. No offense to anyone who might be in the chat dressed up right now, listening. I'm not trying to offend anyone. But our beliefs, what we fight for, are totally different. When you dress up and you feel like a woman or a man, whatever, I totally understand it. I don't agree with it. But we will never be equal, and we cannot have gender neutral ideas, ideologies. We cannot. What a man goes through, a man goes through. What a woman goes through, a woman goes through. What she has to fight for, he will never understand, vice versa. So I'm not with it.
What's your take on it, Alex?
Yeah, peace, Sirius Mindz family. Peace, Quan. Peace, Kat. I have similar sentiments with part of what Kat said. I didn't read the entire interview, but I did screenshot a couple different highlights of what I thought was very interesting in the portion that he did with the GQ interviewer in regards to that outfit. Um, as far as the new masculinity, I don't understand why it has to be a puffed up teepee worn as a dress. Why did it have to be a dress? So I just and I'm not trying to dog anybody's talent if that's the different type of style to wear, but it just makes me wonder what is going to be the new feminine attire. I want to see what the woman is going to wear now. I think that as people and humans in general, the meaning we ascribe to things and the intent we put behind them sets the barriers. I don't think it's fair for pink to be ascribed or blue to be ascribed, because when a baby is a baby, it looks at the colors and sees the colors for its beauty. So for us as people trying to make certain things be certain ways for certain folks, that in itself is trying to, manipulate the gamut of appreciation across the spectrum. Now, as far as that being the new masculinity, I don't agree with that particular wardrobe. I don't like the style of it. I don't understand it. I think that if we look back at Pharrell's career, you'll see that in 2005, he was voted the best dressed man in the world by Esquire, and it was nowhere near the same clothes. So maybe it is an agenda. Maybe it's an agenda to emasculate the black man. Maybe It's an agenda to emasculate all men. I don't know why he's on the cover with a TP on. And then the hair is blonde. I'd like to ask him personal questions beyond what he provided answers for in the interview. So this should be interesting.
Mm-hmm. So, and as you said, like back in 2007, he was like wearing the skinny jeans, the trucker hats, and he had this whole skateboard vibe. But he was also rocking Birkin bags. And for those of you who don't know, I mean, that's a woman's purse. And so in this interview, he was asked basically if musicians are following you, and if they're following your footsteps, when it comes to blurring the gender lines of fashion, like the Young Thugs and the Lil Uzis, do you agree that basically it's okay, in other words, to kind of have younger artists follow his footsteps? And he responded by saying, why not? What is the rule? Or is there a rule? And he said, when people start using religion as the reason someone shouldn't wear something, I'm like, what are you talking about? There was no such thing as a bra or a blouse in any of the old sacred texts. What are you talking about? I was born in a different era where the rules of the Matrix at the time allowed a lot of things that would never be fly today. So I'm just looking at his response on this because, again, you do have the Lil Uzis and the Young Thugs who walk around with women purses and they have women chokers on and jewelry and what have you. And I'm like, yeah, so basically you're saying that it's okay for men to dress up like women and still be called a man? Because to me, that's what you will call a transsexual, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, ladies. I mean, that's
absolutely.
That's what they call them, right? Men who dress up as women, trans. Is that not, I mean, correct? I don't know what the proper terms, because they keep interchanging so much. Like, I don't know what to call it anymore. And when I see this, it's like, okay, so you're basically saying it's okay for young artists, particularly Black artists, because this reporter asked him specifically about these two young artists. And he was like, why not? What rule is there? Is there a rule to really follow? And I would say, no, you're absolutely correct. There's no rules to follow, but there is a line that you shouldn't cross. You're trying, when I think about this again, I think of intersectionality. You're basically trying to blur the lines, like your song says. You're trying to blur the lines, and you're basically trying to have this whole gender neutral idealism when it comes to artists. And I just want to get your take on it, ladies, because I just found that was just kind of weird that he would say that. But I mean, he does have a point, don't get me wrong, about there should not be a rule. But for me, I don't want to see my men dressing up as women. Unless you're actually going to say, okay, I'm gay, then okay, knock yourself out. But if you're not gay, why the hell are you in a dress? That's all I'm saying. That's just my point. I know I probably will be stepping on some toes tonight, and I'm not intentionally trying to step on toes. But again, I find it a problem when you say it's okay for young artists to basically dress up in dresses and it'd be okay. What's your take on it, ladies?
Well, young people are easily influenced by what they see on the media, the television, what's in the music industry and everything. So I get what he's saying is sometimes you just got to go with the flow and change your image. But it becomes dangerous, as you stated, when you try to tell people this is the right way to do things. Being gender neutral, once again, it could be okay in certain settings, but we're going borderline into controlling young people, letting them know that it's okay to dress as a woman. And it's not appropriate in my point of view and where I stand. So I'm more like you, Quan. I don't see the logistic of it. I don't see why he's doing it. You at an age, you are a father, for God's sake, excuse me, but you are. What are you teaching your children? I mean, it's okay for them to dress one way, and then as soon as they get 20, 30, they decide to change themselves and become something else. If you are pushing the gay agenda, just say so. If you fluid, whatever's the word that they use, because it's always changing, like you stated, then just be out there, be outspoken, and tell the truth. This is why I'm doing this and this and that. Don't just push something and expect people to go along with you.
Oh, he is.
Right.
And we're actually going to talk about the whole idea of parents allowing their children, or not allowing, or forcing their children to dress like little boys, dressing up in dresses. We're going to get into that, but I want to get Alex's take on it before we do.
Yeah, again, I mean, it's a tent. That's not the new masculinity. We're not going to walk around in tents. You can't get to this level of, I don't know, worldwide where your popularity is just, so strong that it now rewrites the narrative for all men. Non-binary gender is the term used for when you cannot, specify the gender. When you see someone, you don't know if it's a male or a woman, and that's the desired look. Again, I do not think that this is the new masculinity. I don't think that this is the narrative that history has always had. I'm not saying that it's wrong because it's a new proclamation of a reinvented wheel. What I'm saying is that I don't agree with it personally, and I'd like to dive into the interview a little bit further. I think that when celebrities get this specific level or caliber of fame, they literally have the ability to change an entire culture. And I need to play devil's advocate real quick because
Go ahead.
Because and I'm just saying, Bootsy Collins, with the nail polish and the different hair, and then you had Prince, with his ass out and with the makeup. So I mean, this is just a whole nother level, and that's no disrespect to either of those gentlemen. I'm just pointing out different entertainers who have ability to sculpt a whole genre and create, a mass culture, and they have. But at this level, to say that this is the new masculinity, and we're not looking at a tuxedo, we're not looking at biceps, we're not even looking at a body type. We're looking at a man with a TP dress on, period. And I just don't think that's new masculinity. I'm not sure where this is going. I think that many people are not agreeing with this. And for those who see nothing wrong with what he's wearing, I'd like to get their insight and see their perspective.
Well, it's interesting that you said that because, again, I was looking at a recent interview on Prince, and what's the guy who oh, I cannot think of this guy's name. He basically played with Prince, and he was in a movie, Purple Rain, with
I was
Prince as
about to
well.
say about Prince, yes. I don't remember the name.
What is his name? Something Day. Lord, I cannot think. Anyway, he was basically saying that in the movie, Prince basically wore like the leather and everything because he wanted to appear more masculine, because a lot of people were basically saying he was a little too soft. And so you're right, Prince did do a lot of things that was questionable. He was a brilliant artist, but he wore his butt cheeks out. He used to wear heels because obviously he had a shark complex. And he did like a lot of things that people would say, hey, it's either freaky in a sense, but not necessarily gay. Because again, Prince never wore a dress. Let's just be real with that. He never wore a dress, but he did do some very outrageous things when it comes to men. I mean, wearing the tight pants and the blouses and the eyeliner and stuff like that. So you're right. I mean, when you look at it, it's a double-edged sword. I mean, if you're going to praise Prince, you got to praise him in a sense, I guess. I don't know, but, you know.
Yeah, but at the same time, we have Boy George. I think what I really want to say is they pushing the agenda. Prince never pushed the agenda that, hey, this is me. This is what you need to be wearing as well. This is a new era. This is something being forced upon. This is my take on our young people. So once you see P. Diddy, because he also wore a skirt, excuse me. There's several rappers or in the industry that was wearing skirts. This guy's not the only one. My thing is, what agenda are you pushing? What is it? What do we get out of dressing as women, men dressing as women? What is at the end result? I don't understand. The back in the days, everybody was doing it because they try to be different, stand out, and they kept their sexual orientation. Right? I mean, you know, like dressing feminine, like Prince.
Oh, I got you.
Or Boy George. I mean, we wasn't all in the business. Like, is he gay? Is he not gay? If he's this, is that.
Oh, he was gay.
Yeah, we know that. But you know, most people was clueless. I'm not gonna say nowadays people out in the open, out and about, proud to say what they are, who they do, and why. So I think it's an agenda, like you said, propaganda. Both of you ladies, young ladies said, and I don't know what is it, but I would like to know what's it all about.
Okay, so interestingly enough, so the interviewer actually asked him the question of how or when did things shift for him, and he basically said that he, you know, she asked, or should I say, he asked if he was influenced by the Me Too era or the Me Too movement. And he said no, he was actually influenced by his song, Blurred Lines. And I was like, well, that's interesting, you know? So again, just going back to this whole idea of intersectionality and blurring the lines where it's gender neutral and you can't tell one sex from the other. And you know, just reading it, he gave the reason that, oh, it was because a white woman was doing this, listening to this music, and it made him uncomfortable and blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, no, that's not it. Like, you're not being honest. Let's just keep it all the way 100. You're not being honest about why you are deciding at this moment during this era to, quote unquote, dress up in a dress. Like, you have to be honest about that. You can't say, oh, I was influenced by Blurred Lines. No, you were not. You probably were out back then and you just didn't come out fully. But I guess for me, what I want to know is, like, what's next? Like, if we are going to say it's okay for men to dress up in dresses, right? Can we say the same about if a man asks you to do a sexual act, a homosexual act, and it'd be okay? Because, like, where does it end? How far are we willing to take this? Because, again, yeah, there's some, I've been told some really crazy stories by a very close friend of men who allowed her to take it to that level. And unfortunately, I just want to know, it's like, is this a norm? Like, how far are we going to take this? Like, when do we stop and say, okay, this shit is getting too far? Like, I want to get your take on it, ladies, because do we have that point where we can say enough is enough? Or this is just bananas at this point? or is it okay? Because I mean, some women will feel, hey, it's okay to dress up in it, and if a man asks me to do a homosexual act with him, I'm okay with that too. So I want to get your take on it, ladies.
Well, I'm not okay with it at all. I think it's going too far. It's too far now. What you do in your bedroom is your business. I was born and raised like that. What you do in your bedroom, again, is your business. Once you put it out there, I mean, it's lack of respect for your body. Then we have to talk about the risks behind it. Dressing as a woman is one thing, but then you go on to another thing, sexual acts, how to pleasure someone. It's too much. It's overkill. So I don't know, like you stated, I stated, and Alex, I don't understand the agenda behind it. What's the propaganda? Why are we going this far? Why are Black men, we have enough struggles, are willing to go that route? I don't understand. I need coffee. I need a strong shot of coffee right now.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That was funny. She said, "I need some coffee."
Yeah.
On a serious note, you did bring up a good point though, Kat. You know, Prince stuck to the music. You know what I'm saying? So he wasn't out there saying, "I am this." You know, when you put yourself in a place to, you know, state what the new tone is going to be set for the future for everyone, like one specific genre, like that's like half the world. If that's the new masculinity, like that's the template. So not everybody's going to agree with that. Quan, I wanted to read off a little part of that interview. I don't know what sections you have, but were you going to cover any portion that talked about when he was questioned about being on the cover?
Yeah. Go ahead. No, you can cover it. Go ahead.
Okay, it's just a small portion. I thought it was interesting because Pharrell was very vocal about some of the things that he did say, and this part really stuck out to me. The interviewer asked Pharrell, when we said, "Hey, we want you to be on the cover of the new masculinity issue, why did you say yes?" And Pharrell responded, "Well, when it comes to having this conversation, I don't necessarily know that the masculinity is new as much as the conversation is new. That's number one. But I think this is a way that I can speak up at a time where we're in the middle of a spiritual plight, a spiritual war. When people are online, they have their real identity. They have like a nickname, right?" So the interviewer says, yes, the avatar, in regards to the little icon when anyone is online. So Pharrell responds, yeah, it gives them this ability to be whoever they want to be. That's a spirit, because they're no longer defined by the physical. The responsibilities of being connected to all that is. Online, your spirit is free to be whatever it wants to be. And what do you see online? Fucking warfare. Pardon my language. The interviewer then says, I've never thought about it in those terms. Pharrell responds, I'll bring God into it. A lot of people pray less. So now when you ask a question, where do you get your number one result? Google. You don't. Then he puts his hands together in the prayer motion. Then he says you and does the typing motion. Almost done. Then the interviewer says, yeah, it's hard to pray online. You could, but you wouldn't have many Twitter followers. Pharrell then says, that's right. And what did you just say? Followers. We're followers, and we're not following God. We're following men. So that's a spiritual warfare. So when you offered me to do a part of this conversation, I'm like, yeah, because think about it. What is happening to a transgender person? What are they going through? They feel like their body is not connected to their spirit. And what kind of toxic environment do we live in that they have to justify how they feel? That must feel incredibly insane. That is spiritual warfare. So I wanted to be in the conversation. On the surface, it is an older, straight, white male world. But it has prompted this conversation that I think is deeper than what the new masculinity is or what a non-gender binary world looks like. I think we're in spiritual warfare. Yeah. So
yeah.
I thought that was interesting. And he goes on further, but for him to bring God into it, and then for him, and this is his opinion. This is Pharrell Williams giving his interview his opinion, his life, his, you know, what's his reality is in regards to choosing this magazine cover, accepting it. And he basically feels like when we're all online, you know, you don't have to identify whether or not you're a man or a woman. You're just a free spirit. And that's what this is pretty much about. And he's saying that we don't follow God. Again, he's saying we, which is inclusive to all. We're followers of men. And he's talking about the spirit being free. So for him to openly include in the interview God and transgender and non-binary people, those weren't even topics. So I wonder why he injected those three facets into the conversation.
Well, honestly, when I read that, I was like, you know what? He kind of has a point on the spiritual warfare part, but I totally disagree with everything else, right? I mean, in a sense, yes, we are fighting demonic folks and all of their demons. I mean, when you think about white supremacy, absolutely, there are demonic factions at play. But again, he's trying to push this whole, as you would call it, spiritual warfare. And he's basically saying that in part, you should be able to wear dresses and, you know, it's spiritual warfare. And if we, no, sir. I'm sorry. This, like, if you go to the Bible, if you're going to just go to the Bible, because I don't know what he worships, right? I think he said at one point he was Pentecostal or whatever religion his parents had or whatever. So if we're going to use that model, the Bible, you know, where in the Bible, I mean, where does it say it's okay for any of this stuff to go on? If anything, it talks about it not being okay. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just trying to figure out like how he's trying to tie in, you know, being able to wear dresses and saying that, oh, because people are not able to do so, it's spiritual warfare. No, sir, I totally disagree with you. Like, I absolutely disagree with you. Again, are they pushing an agenda? Absolutely. Has it gotten to the point of spiritual warfare? Absolutely. You have to understand the devils that you're dealing with. You really do. So I want to get your take on it, Carrie. Like, what's your take on it? This whole idea of having the spiritual warfare, him bringing this whole idea of God into the conversation, and, you know, his whole mindset at this point, because he's kind of like all over the place. If you ask me, it's like, you can't push religion on one hand and then say, oh, let's have, oh, kumbaya, all men wear dress fest. That's just not, it's all over the place.
I mean, oh my God, where's my coffee at? Well, actually, I mean, I agree with some stuff. I don't understand. Okay, now men and morals, sometimes they don't go together. Sometimes they lack it. Sometimes they do have it. I get it. So for him to repeat and talk about the song Blurred Lines and how he felt after singing it, I got to give him kudos for that. So he was in tune with the song and how it depicted women as sexual, and he didn't agree with it. I guess it took him years to figure out after he made a hit that maybe that wasn't appropriate for women, period, point blank, period. And then nonetheless, he stole the beats and everything else from our late great Marvin Gaye. We should talk about that too as well. But morals, you have to have them whether you dress in a skirt or not. So for you to get to this point, and yet I think he's 40 something, dress
46.
like a female. Yeah, dress as a female, and come to in tune to yourself that, you know what I did back then was wrong. I don't know if he's trying to equate feminism and saying that, I feel more like a woman, so now I'm gonna be equal to them. That's where I think it's scary. So are you saying that your morals and your value now in sync because you dress as a woman? I'm a little confused. You didn't say anything before when you wore your skinny jeans and you had your hit song and you had those videos with the white women and everything. Now that you dress as a woman, what are you trying to say about us? I don't like it at all.
Here's the thing. So 2 things. One, he is pushing, like, I kind of felt like he's pushing his Adidas as well, because he did mention in an interview that he has this unisex sneaker collection with Adidas. So, I kind of think that was like a little plug per se, but then again, he talks about, you know, what's missing. Well, the interview actually said that there's something missing from the cultural conversation right now, and that it's the idea of a higher masculinity. And that he went on to say, I think a lot of men are under the false impression that they're being asked to bury or hide or be ashamed of their masculinity. But what we really need is to be in touch with the divine masculine inside ourselves, which is the exact opposite of toxic masculine. Is it masculinity? Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm.
And so he responded by saying, I think the truest definition of masculinity is the essence of you that understands and respects that which is masculine. If you ask me, when we talk about masculinity, it's also very racial, this conversation, because the dominant force on this planet right now is the older straight white male, which you said earlier, Alex. But basically, like, I don't know, to me, he's trying to basically say that, oh, what's missing right now is just this whole idea of, you know, men understanding, you know, what it truly means to be masculine. And I wanted him to dive a little deeper into what that really truly meant to him when he says to truly know your masculine side. I wanted to know, okay, what does that mean for you? Like, obviously we see you wearing a dress, and obviously you want to blur the lines, if you will, but I really want to know, what does it mean? Does it mean being a gentleman, walking around in manly clothes? I mean, maybe I have this all wrong. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe I'm just looking at this closed-minded, if you will. And pardon me if I am, but I'm just not in tune with a lot of this stuff. So maybe I am a little closed-minded on this particular issue, but I just really wanted to get an idea of what that meant. What do you mean go inner, like in yourself? Like, what does that mean to be masculine? And I want to know from the chat room. I want to know from the men. Like, what does it mean to be masculine in this day and era right now? Is it this? Is this what we're defining as masculine? Because if so, then y'all got to update me on this stuff. Y'all got to recharge me and re-download some things in me, because clearly I'm completely off base at this point. So, I mean, what's your take on it, ladies?
I mean, I'm with you 100%. I'm a little confused, like I stated earlier. I just believe that he's trying to say, I think we talked about this before. Sometimes the role of a man is to be hardcore, to take care of his family, to be there for them, defend them, provider. And when they're not in tune, if they are in tune with how they feel inside, whether they want to cry, then they get questioned whether you're a man or you acting like a sissy. You know, those words, those negative words that makes a man feel less than. So I think that's why I stated, it took him all these years to actually figure out that what he did in his song or what he said was inappropriate. So maybe he's coming into tune with that. Now, what a masculine man might be or how he needs to define himself, I can't answer that. Maybe somebody in the chat room could. But we talked about this. We had open discussion that it's okay for a man to show his soft side, to show that he cares. It's okay, but I guess the media and everyone else, when it comes to African Americans or people of color, we can't allow that to be seen, heard, and I guess he's just letting everyone know. That's my take, that it's okay. Now, the dressing part, I don't agree with, but like I said, I can't say much. If people want to dress that way, they want to dress that way. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like what you said, Carrie. And then, to go back to him in the interview.
Turn your volume up some, Alex, please. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. When Pharrell was talking about, well, we're not followers of God, but we're followers of men, and how he was comparing, the transgenders. Well, how do you think they feel if their, spirit doesn't agree with the body they're in? And for me to hear you say, Quan, how he talks about the masculine divinity within, I wonder why he would make that statement and place that one piece of attire for the one sole look of the definition of the new masculinity. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's almost being redefined. There was another portion I wanted to read real quick, because I felt like it was on point, and it's really important, because this is just one man This is just one person. He doesn't speak for every household, every nation, every country, every state. He doesn't speak for our uncles. He doesn't speak for many of the men in the chat room. I don't think he speaks for some cousins. There might be a few people that he speaks for, and they can say, yes, you're right. That's my masculine look. I'm about to claim that and walk in it. But I just want to point out this part of the interview. The GQ interviewer said, let's talk about the gown you're wearing on the cover of this issue. Mm-hmm. You had an instant reaction to it. And Pharrell says, yes. The interviewer says, you saw it and looked at me and you were like, that's look number one. Pharrell said, because I am my most comfortable self when I'm being a character. Mm. So I want to pause real quick because, you know what I'm saying? The people who are reading this magazine and looking at that image aren't characters. They're impressionable youth. So you are, you know what I'm saying? The mind is so fragile, yo. Like, it's plasticity. You can't plant seeds in kids and stuff like that and not anticipate for that to change a whole, you know what I'm saying, population of people, like a whole decade, like everything. It's just, you can't do that, man. That ain't the one way. That's a fallacy. It's this way. This is the new, that's too much. I don't agree with that. And then also too, not only does he say, because I'm my most comfortable self when I'm being a character, the interviewer asked him, do you mean your public self as a performer? And Pharrell says, yes. On my professional time, that's what I love. When I'm by myself, I come home, put on cut-off Dickies, sneakers, and a tee. When I saw the look, I didn't question it. I still don't know if it's unisex or not. All I knew was it's going to look amazing, and I think that's the new masculinity. Then he says, having the willingness to just be. Just live and let live. I mean, how fucking insecure must you be as a human being that because you are uncomfortable with doing something, somebody else shouldn't be able to do it? I don't accept that. That's just unacceptable to me. And what I say to that is, you know, you can keep your happy suggestion, home team. Mm-hmm. When you're playing a character and you're getting paid and getting all these labels and getting all this free clout of advertisement, you're planting seeds in people who don't even know who they are because that's a character. That's not even you. Are you wearing that TP at the crib?
Exactly.
So I just, you know, when we're playing these roles and, you know, when you're presenting this, I don't know, when you're not even being yourself and you're portraying this ego-based, narcissistic type individual, or when you recreate another ego or entity and then you go home and live your package life, why don't you make sure you say that this is not yourself? This is the character you created for the public eye to make yourself feel comfortable. So when you go home, you put your real shit on, and then you now recreate the new generation genre of masculinity when you said yourself is based off within. So why put on a damn dress and tell the world this is it for y'all because we're followers of men, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. So I just want to pick apart the whole conversation now because it's a whole whipsaw. There's many fallacies. There's fallacious statements. It's either or statements. There's many contradictories. For him to put God in the conversation and say, you know, we're not following God. We're following men. Therefore, it's a spiritual war. Well, what if some men don't believe in spirit? What if they're atheists? I mean, I could just go on, but again, that doesn't speak for everybody in this chat room. It doesn't speak for my family. I don't define that as the new masculine look. And I think that when we do talk about masculinity, there's many different perspectives on it. When we're talking about masculine and feminine energy, we're not even talking about a gender. And there's many other theories around the world that are global systems that have been in operation for thousands of years. When you think about, you know, yin and yang, the push-pull, when you think about Tai Chi and Wu Chi being the mother and Tai Chi being the will, and Yang and Yin being first, and the dark and Yang, I mean, it's all so much bigger than what we think of from a man-woman type ideology. So yes, it's a spiritual warfare, but I think there's so much mixed and muddled into this with a little bit of packaging for the new Adidas shoe that we're not even seeing this on a deeper level of intellectualism that it can provide. I think that masculinity is a little bit stronger a little bit forceful, but it's not bad. And when you come to feminine energy, it's a lighter, it's softer, it's more gentle. That doesn't mean gay. And masculine energy doesn't mean gay either. The word gay means happy. And if I was a homosexual, I'd be offended for some of the language that's being used that doesn't even apply to that type of, you know what I'm saying, category. But again, what I will say is that look is not no new masculinity, period. And for him to say that that's a character that he's playing and then goes home and puts on some cutoff dickies, that I mean, that tells a lot. And it's cool he bought a Birkin bag and, you know, had it crocodile colored purple. That's fine. You know, do what you want to do. But don't say what you feel is for everybody and let it be. Because you got too high of a caliber and so much power to where you rewriting history with that one narrative. And you don't speak for all people that look like you.
Absolutely.
Well, here's the thing. Like, again, the mere fact that you have to go into character just to come out into the world and interact with other people, that says a lot to me. And it's like you're putting on this facade for the world to see. And in actuality, it's like, come on, dude, this is how people end up in suicide. This is how people become depressed and on drugs and alcoholism, because at the end of the day, they're not being their true selves. Not saying that it's a end all, be all, tell all, but what I'm saying, in a lot of times when you have a lot of these celebrities who can't be themselves and, like he said, have to go into character, yes, you will have this happening. And it's unfortunate because, again, most of the people who probably buy GQ magazines are probably men in their 20s, 30s, and 40s and up. And unfortunately, unfortunately, you're right. A lot of them are, you know, gay. If we could just keep it a buck, you know. But at the end of the day, it's like, Pharrell, like, I just want you to be true with yourself. If this is not who you really are, then stop portraying this bullshit to everyone. Because again, like you said, Alex, there's probably a huge part of our youth who looks up to him. I mean, he had the whole skateboard vibe. So I'm quite sure there's a lot of kids who look up to him, and they called him a futurist in the article. And, you know, he's seen as thought-provoking and influencing the masses and what have you. So if you are not this person and you only doing this to push a damn sneaker or a gay agenda, I take serious issue with this. Because, again, what's going to happen to the kid who, hey, easily influenced and say, hey, well, Pharrell is doing it, why not? Why can't I not do it? And let's say this kid, because he's so confused, ends up killing himself. You know, it's just, this shit goes so much deeper. And you just got to be careful as a celebrity. I mean, I don't look at celebrities as leaders, but unfortunately, there's a lot of people in this world that do. And they do influence, unfortunately, the masses. And I just hate that he's pushing this agenda. I just really do. If I can just be honest, I'm sorry, guys. I have nothing against homosexuals, but I just don't believe that, I need my man to be strong. I need him to dress like a goddamn man and act like a man. Unfortunately, like Steve Harvey, but think like me. No. I want him to dress like a man and portray himself with that strength. I don't want him wearing what the hell I'm wearing. I wear dresses every day. I don't want him wearing what I goddamn wear. Well, what are we gonna do? Share clothes? Like, come on. Like, are you serious right now? What next? You gonna ask for my heels and some lipstick too? Like, come on. Like, where are we going with this, dude? Like, this. Nah, we can't be sharing clothes, bro. I mean, what's your take on it, ladies? We can't be sharing dresses, bro. We just can't. Are we really there? Like, are we really there at the point where it's okay for you and your man to share clothes? I mean, like, rocking the same dresses and stuff. Y'all might as well just go ahead to prom and just dress up. You know, like, yeah. Okay.
I mean, I hope not. That's a slippery slope. I really hope I don't meet someone that wants to fit into my little petite pants and shirt. But I don't know. Like you mentioned, y'all brought up a great point. These magazines are sometimes or most likely not being purchased by us. Mm-hmm. We are not the target audience. That's why I stated earlier, what are you doing to your own kind of people? There's magazine out there that you could have probably stated that I do this and that for your people before you go to the masses. And maybe there is an agenda, like you stated, he's trying to sell his sneakers. He's trying to put out there that he's making clothes, unisex clothes, whatever sneakers. I don't get it. I mean, whatever. It is what it is. That's the business. That's the nature of it. But it does borderline when you're telling young individual, this is what it is. This is what we're going to do. And just go with the flow. I mean, you cannot be a part-time dresser. If you're going to dress, you're going to dress from beginning to night to end. If you go home and change into what you want to be behind closed doors, there's individuals, young teenager, young adults who do not have that choice. They dress like that all day, all year round. They don't get the chance to go home and change or whatever because that's not them. So that's why I think it's mostly dangerous for him to say, this is what I look like. And then later on, 2 weeks later, he looked totally different. Fashion is one thing, but you're pushing the agenda behind it that it's okay to hide behind a skirt and show your feelings. We can show our feelings, but we don't have to deny what we were born with. I think that's dangerous.
That's powerful. And something important right now. Laverne Cox. Do you ladies know who Laverne Cox is?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Okay.
He played Shim. That's the one that played on the Orange is the New Black, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Just wanted to be sure.
Okay. I seen the show about a month ago, and basically there was this transgender woman coming out as a man, and she was, preparing to have a double mastectomy, and she ended up meeting Laverne Cox. And I bring this into the conversation because one of the things Laverne Cox had said to this 20-year-old girl who was, preparing to go through a surgery and live her life as a man, she said, everyone has the right to self-actualize. And when I thought about that, I was like, you know what? Everyone does have the right to self-actualize. However, when Pharrell places himself with the authority to say, this is it, this is what it looks like, this is the image world, here it is, but doesn't stand by that in a regular setting, it's almost like, it makes you wonder, why are you doing this? You're married with 4 kids. You don't even dress this way. And I hear Pharrell by him saying he's looking at non-binaries. He's looking not at non-binary genders. He's looking at trans, genders, and he doesn't feel like they feel right having an incongruent spirit with the body. So how fair is it for him not to wear what he wants? Well, the thing is that you can't speak for everybody. So I think we just have to be careful here. Again, celebrity status does not grant you overall authority over what the say-so is for masculinity. I think men should be men, and I think women should be women. Now, there are some women with muscular builds that are a little bit stronger and have a less feminine essence to them, but at the same time, a man, his built, his muscle tone, he's here to be the protector. You know what I'm saying? I don't want my man, personally for me, I don't want a man in a dress. I don't want a man in a dress. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. That's not what I desire in my heart. So I guess it comes down to preference if that's the case. I would prefer to see a masculine man the same way Pharrell Williams spoke about his father in the interview. And how they used to get dressed up and be GQ in suits, and it was a big thing. They wasn't wearing no dang on dresses back then on no front cover. And that's not saying anything against men who do. What I'm saying is, if you're going to do it on the cover, live it your whole life, and only say this is your preference. Don't say it's a new agenda, period, because it's not.
So we can all agree that none of us want our man, boyfriends, or husband wearing a dress or women clothing. Are we all in agreement?
I agree.
Okay, duly noted. Okay, so my next question is, ladies, how do you feel about seeing celebrities dressing their children in boy dresses? Like take for instance, case in point, Charlize Theron. She dresses her adopted son, who's actually from Africa, little black boy from Africa, in dresses. And on the flip side, I see Will and Jada Smith, who supports Jaden and, you know, him wearing dresses, if you will. And I see a lot of celebrities, and I've even seen Madonna dress her daughter somewhat up in boy clothing. And I just want to get your take on it, because, you know, you both have children, and I can't speak as a parent, but do you think this confuses children at a very young age? I mean, right now they have these 5-year-olds and 6 and 7-year-olds, and with ABC gay, but what is it called, the gay ABCs and what have you? Gay ABCs. There we go. And like, I just want to get your take on it, because it's like, at that age when children are so impressionable and they're so young, I don't even think they can even process the whole idea of being gay. And I want to get your take on it, because again, you're seeing a lot of celebrities dressing their children up in girl clothing. The little girls are being dressed up in little boy clothing, and you see the little boys dressing up in skirts and dresses and what have you. And I just think it's unfair to the child to kind of force them to kind of have this gender neutral kind of mindset at such a young age. I believe, hey, when they're ready to make, you know, decisions, hopefully when they become a teen or so, you know, when they can make a decision and have a better understanding, then yes, okay, support them. But there's no way in hell at 3, 4, and 5 years old, your child should have that kind of level of understanding of what it means to be gay or homosexual or lesbian or whatever, or trans or whatever they want to call it nowadays. So I want to get your take on it, ladies.
Well, when my son was growing up, I was very careful with the cartoons that he watched and the Disney channels and stuff like that, because they do push the agenda nowadays more often. Sometimes if you're not listening or paying close attention to these shows, it goes right over your head as a parent. So at 3 and 5, I agree with you. I don't think a child at that age knows what they want and who they want to be. You are supposed to mold them into what they want to be and help them decide their role and what the expectation as a young little boy or young lady. If they get to a teenage age and they feel like, you know what, I like the same sex or whatever gender, then that's something different. But when they're young, I don't think it's something that they should be worried about. There's tons of things they need to be worried about, and deciding whether they like a girl or boy shouldn't be one of the concerns. So that agenda has been pushed with a lot of these shows. I mean, a lot of cartoons, a lot of Disney Channel, Nickelodeon. I sit here sometimes, I don't even know what I'm watching when I'm sitting with my son. It's like, it's not for his age, and I'm just like confused why. But like nowadays, like Pharrell and all them, they're just pushing this agenda. It's okay to be you. It's okay to be tribe, bi, everything, all types of things. Just be you, and it's dangerous. It's dangerous, especially at an early age.
What's your take on it, Alex?
You said try, I almost busted out laughing. She said try. Not to be insensitive, that was just funny. You know, let me say first and foremost, if any of my children ended up coming and telling me that they were homosexual, I would tell them that I love them, and I would encourage them to love themselves. Okay. Secondly, I have a sister who happens to be gay, and she was pretty much disowned by our parent in common. And I see the torment that people go through, even like on a clinical level speaking. I couldn't imagine having to deny myself or pretend. But what I will say very firmly, for my own personal beliefs in what I feel is important, I think children have too much access to too much perversion. I think it's a society that everything has just been so desensitized, and there's no sacredness anymore. And I want to give a shout out real quick to Soleil. That interview she did with Brother Rich on Black Magic 363, she really touched base on the sacredness of women and women having that divine energy and women being sexual, however, more focused on the sensuality of the women. So when we're talking about children, why in the hell are we talking about anything sexually related? I mean, I didn't even know what gay was until I was like 14. So for me, I was very, you know what I'm saying, like, I don't know if I was sheltered. I didn't know what weed was or gay was. And I was a freshman. So for me, it's like, I think there's so much access, and there's a difference between awareness and a force-fed agenda. So when we start introducing these concepts to children, I think we need to allow children to fully mature and have puberty and be at an adolescent stage before we can have these conversations with them about their preference of these adult activities. Now, I know in different nations and things that, you know, there's child marriages, you know, in Africa, 14, 15, you could be a mom, own a business, have kids. That's different. What I'm talking about in this conversation is children being exposed to things that their minds can't even interpret. And I don't think that that's fair. When we're dressing children up, these aren't Halloween costumes, and they're not chihuahuas and turtlenecks. I think we need to be very sensitive. But then again, for the parents that do have these looser restraints on clothes, in the beginning of the conversation, I said that as people, we ascribe the labels. You know, kids don't look at pink and think, oh, this is for me. Or look at blue and say, this is for me. When they're toddlers and they're 18 months, they're looking at colors and appreciating it for what creator created it for. So I think the intention as adults that we put on these children influence them beyond their own personal choices. And I think we need to back off and let children be children. Because back in the day, you couldn't let your child tell you, I'm a tree. That child would be told, go sit your ass down. You see what I'm saying? So I think things are too loose. And as parents, we need to take responsibility and have an understanding and appreciation. However, not excessively pour or force agendas when children aren't even ready to obtain that knowledge base for what it is.
I absolutely.
Wait, right. Did you say something about chihuahua and a turtleneck?
Well, I was trying to be, I was being sarcastic in regards to, you know, when people wear, you know, when people got the little Yorkies and they got a little turtleneck, or, you know, they got the little pug and they got the turtleneck. I was saying, you know, we can't do that with children.
Like, honestly, growing up, you're right, Alex. Like, we couldn't even say the word fort or fight. Like, we couldn't even say. That's just how, like, it was so many things we couldn't say. As a matter of fact, when adults were talking, we could not even be in the presence of an adult conversation. We had to get out of the room. Right. Like, we were told, go sit your ass down when grown folks are talking. Like, literally. And so it's like, you know, it's, again, I understand things are changing, times are changing, but when I see the book, like the gay BCs or whatever the hell they want to call it, like, that's too young. Like, that's just, like, how are you going to explain? I mean, you can't say, oh, that person is gay without describing what that means to be gay. Because clearly, when the same sex sleep with each other, you have to be able to formalize that to a child and to be able to say what that means. And to me, like, that's just too young to be able to explain that to a 5-year-old and under, or even hell, anything under 13, I think is just, should not be even, like, taught any of that information. Like, honestly, I just don't believe it's time. I understand in movies and cartoons and you see all of these things and it's like you can't help it because, again, you know, you can try to filter what's on the TV, you can try to filter what's on the radio or what the child is listening to. But again, I mean, now that, like in Chicago, where they're forcing it to be taught to our children, it's like, what do you do as a parent if you have to work and you can't homeschool your children? Like, it gets to a point where it's too much. And it's just like, okay, I'm okay with you being gay over there, okay? But don't force it down my throat. that's my only problem with this. Like, again, every tub has to stand on its own bottom, but at the end of the day, don't come forcing your shit on me, like, and my children. You know, that's just my mindset. It's like, you can do whatever the hell you want to do, but that doesn't mean I have to accept it. It's like, yeah, live your life, do what you do. I'm not God, I can't judge you, but at the end of the day, it's like, you know, I can't allow you to force it down my throat and say, okay, yeah, this is okay. Because my mind is not clicking. Like, the cylinders in my mind is telling me, no, this is not okay. This is not okay. Like, no, it's not adding up. And I just to close out, ladies, you know, just reading this article, for some reason, Pharrell, he reminds me of Candace Owens. And I hate to say it, but he uses the same tactics as Candace Owens. He takes a whole bunch of facts and he pushes out there his quote unquote hidden agenda. And I've noticed, you know, with this article, how he talked about the vulgarness and the degradation in rap music, but yet he's still pushing this whole gay agenda and trying to feminize Black men into wearing dresses. And it's just, I don't know, it's just, to me, it's like a big ass contradiction in this entire article. So I want to get your take on it. Ladies, we're going to close out, and I just want to get your take on this.
Yeah, well, everyone in the music industry or entertainment has their own agenda propaganda. Like yes. I stated earlier, it's borderline when you trying to influence a group of individuals. In this particular case, Black males. We have our own struggles, Pharrell. We have our own things that we have to overcome. Whether you pushing the gay agenda, there's gay people out there all over. There might be some on the chat room. I'm not disrespecting anyone. I think pushing sexuality choice at a young age is dangerous. That's my take. I believe that people come into themselves. They realize what they want to be and who they want to partner with. Nowadays, it's okay. I'm not saying to keep it in closed doors. I just don't believe that you should push that agenda out there and think it's okay to be one way, and then 4 years later, what you gonna do? You're gonna come to terms with something else. You either stand for something or don't stand for nothing at all.
Yeah,
that's my take.
Yeah, that was on point, because there's so many other agendas that could be spoken on. One thing that I want to read real quick to the family, just to recap the interview. The interview asked Pharrell, and do you feel that it is in some ways your privilege to lend your voice to uplifting people who are under attack? Pharrell said, yeah, but I'm not like an activist, and I don't think my opinion is everything. I don't know anyone else's plight. So right there, and there was more said, don't place yourself as the voice. And aren't there other plights such as social justice and civil rights for the Black community still today? So placing a face on masculinity and, you know, reinventing the wheel, there's so many other things that could be talked about right now. So I just think that, again, this is a sensitive topic. It's not an attack on the LGBTQ community.
Not at all.
It's not an attack on men who do have a fluid gender type style with their wardrobe. The focus on this is that he is not the face for any new masculinity, and the new masculinity agenda being pushed needs to be, you know, carefully sifted through and looked at, because that's very influential on our men, and we all have come to the conclusion that he doesn't speak for our families. So this is just a wonderful opportunity for us to expand our minds and pay attention and make sure we talk to our kids first before the world gets to them. Be open, honest, break things down on a level to where we don't ruin their innocence, but we allow them to understand the truth for what it is, so they can use their discernment and be okay with it. So thank you, Professor Griff, for the opportunity to be on this platform again. I love y'all, sisters. Sirius Mindz family. It's always a pleasure, and just another great cipher.
Yes.
Go ahead, Carrie.
No, I'm gonna get my coffee when I'm done.
Yeah, it makes you scratch your head on love. I know. So we just want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. Again, please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, share. If you want to support the platform, you can on Super Chat, PayPal, or Cash App. Also, For those who want to participate with Sister Cypher, feel free to email us. I'll drop the email in the chat room. Again, if you want to participate, please let us know. We're just taking some serious topics and talking about it casually. I mean, it's really not that hard, ladies and gentlemen. Just if you want to participate, please let us know. So thank you, Professor Griff, for the opportunity. We love you. Everyone sleep well. Peace.
Peace.
Peace, Sirius Mindz family.